After making us wait for over an hour after the deadline, the Colts finally announced their roster moves for, again, Tuesday here before the regular season. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for tuning in and making us your first post-cuts listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner, so visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of HorseshoeHuddle.com, and I'm joined, as always, by Jake Arthur, our credentialed boots on the ground for the site. We do want to apologize for being a bit late from where we decided to go live today. Most normal teams had their roster moves out a little after the deadline. The Colts had to wait until about 5:20 to actually post theirs. Yes, we are still bitter about that as people who host a podcast and also work at a site writing about this team as well. But nonetheless, we are here live with you guys to go down the cuts that the Colts made on Tuesday. We're going to go through what the 53-man roster looks like at this moment, and then potential waiver moves, other moves that are coming with this team. I think there's a couple of positions where the Colts are not done making moves before the season starts. But Jake, let's get into the whole thing of roster moves that the team has announced. The first one actually happened last night, which was they traded a 6th-round pick to the Minnesota Vikings for Mekhi Blackmon, slot corner that was a 3rd-round pick, I believe, for the Vikings 2 years ago. And in typical Chris Ballard fashion, he is coming off an ACL injury, and he had a bit of a rough camp because he was coming back from that ACL injury. So the Colts, again, staying true to their brand, are investing in a guy who is coming back from an injury. Other news that came out today is they are working out another slot corner, Mike Hilton, tomorrow, a veteran that has played under Lou Anarumo the last almost like 6 years, half dozen years there with the Bengals. So Mike Hilton could be an interesting practice squad, maybe a safety conversion guy that the Colts could be looking at. And then the full-blown moves here. Injured reserve designated to return linebacker Jalen Carlies. The Colts expect that to be about a 4-week injury, and he should be back by the start of October if all things go according to plan. At running back, they waived Nate Noel, Ulysses Bentley, and Khalil Herbert. At wide receiver, they waived Coleman Owen, Landon Parker, Aju, Blaine Taylor, and then they released veteran Laquan Treadwell. At tight end, they waived Jelani Woods and Maximilian Mong, I think it's Mong, and they released veteran Sean McCune. On the offensive line, they waived Wesley French, Marcellus Johnson. They released Josh Sills and, again, also waived Marshall Foreigner as well. On the defensive line, they waived Isaiah Land, Darrell Nchami, Devontae Davis, Desmond Little, Marcus Haynes, and they released veteran Josh Tupou. And at linebacker, Austin Ajake, Solomon DeShields, Joseph Vaughn, and Jake Chaney were all waived. And then at corner, Juju Brents was waived, Chris Lamons released, Alex Johnson waived, and Duke Shelley released. And Trey Washington, Ladarius Tennyson waived at safety. They also waived the backup kicker who lost the job as well. But that is the Colts moves there, all just thrown at you really quick. So Jake, wherever you want to start here, man, go at it. Where do you want to start with all these roster moves that are coming?
Yeah, so there's a new vibe in town, I would say, and that's that they have no patience for anyone that they cannot expect to contribute immediately. So Jelani Woods, despite being healthy all summer, he is gone. Spent the last 2 years injured. Juju Brents, despite being very talented when he is on the field, he's always been hurt as well. And then so they made the tough cut there to let go of Juju Brents, hometown kid. He's not been healthy throughout camp. He's been obviously battling a hamstring injury the last few weeks. So the writing was kind of on the wall there. But you can even look at Anthony Richardson as well, not being the starter. Like, they are ready to roll with guys who help right now. You can tell this is going to be a very veteran-driven team. If there's young guys that can compete, great, but they want guys who it feels like trust is like the biggest thing here.
Yeah.
So there's not like a ton of shockers. There's several guys who had good summers, but we kind of expected them to be on the outs. Khalil Herbert was a guy, obviously, we were kind of curious if he would wind up making it. Let's see who else here. Yeah, Isaiah Land. I know that was a really disappointing one. That was a really grueling cut for me, and I know you forced yourself to keep him on your your projection. But yeah, other than that, I'm not going to toot my own horn or anything here, but I think Brents and Lamons were maybe the only two I missed. I think
Yeah.
I had everyone else cut.
Yeah, in the cornerback room, they are just vastly reshaping here. And to
Oh,
go
yeah.
along with that, one player that I need to add as an addendum here, Sam Womack was also
Yes.
waived by the Colts as well. I didn't have him on here, but Sam Womack was also waived. And that was going to be my most notable thing is just how much retooling they're doing at corner. I kind of had Juju Brents and potentially Sam Womack not making this team when Justin Wally was healthy. But once Justin Wally went down with that injury, I figured they would have to keep both those guys to kind of make up for losing such an impact player. But because they signed Xavier Howard, because they traded for Mekhi Blackman, and because now they're working out Mike Hilton, they decided to move on from those two players who just did not have good enough camps to make the team. Womack had a very up and down camp, and by all accounts, from what the beat writers were saying, it just wasn't good whatsoever for him this year. And then Juju Brents, I mean, he needed to show that he could stay healthy and be productive. He was getting run with the first team early in camp, had that hamstring injury, his third hamstring injury of his career, which knocked him out for a majority of camp. And then he came back against Cincinnati Bengals like third stringers and looked like a third or fourth stringer type guy out there on the field. So I understand why the Colts are moving on. I wish they could have got a pick for him. That would have been nice, but
It
yeah,
did.
I
So
fully,
someone reported they did try and shop him a little bit, but
yeah,
nothing materialized.
they've been trying to shop him since the draft, just to get that out there, just because his fit with Lou Anarumo's system was never going to be very good, in my opinion. But they wanted to at least see what he could do, and he just wasn't able to have the camp that he wanted. Keep in mind, too, guys, with the players I said released, those released players do not have to pass through waivers. Release guys are vested veterans who can immediately sign with other teams, including re-sign to the practice squad or to the same team as well. And waived players have to go through all 32 teams on waivers before they can go to the practice squad. So players like Laquan Treadwell, if we're getting upset about losing him, or guys like, I mean, even Duke Shelley, Chris Lamons, like those guys could end up on the practice squad as of right now because they are technically already available to go there. Other players have to go through the waivers there. But some other news and notes here: Coleman Owen, preseason standout, was released or was waived. Jelani Woods, we haven't talked enough about that one here. We talked about the likelihood of that happening on past shows, Jake, but Jelani Woods officially is done with Indy. It kind of seemed like the writing was on the wall when Will Mallory beat him out in camp, and he was getting runs with the 3 and 4s all throughout training camp. But it's still kind of weird to see him, being released or being waived. And then Isaiah Land, that one still hurts, man. Again, at the end of the day, I would have preferred Land over Samson Ebukam just because I don't believe in Ebukam being productive this year. But it's a numbers game, and if you want to keep Ebukam, then Isaiah Land unfortunately had to be the odd man out there.
Yeah, one of my big standouts here is at linebacker. So Jalen Carlisle has already been out for like 2 weeks with an ankle injury. He's on IR designated to return now, so he's out at least these first 4 weeks. We were pretty sure Joe Bocci was going to be the starter next to Zaire Franklin anyway, or, in pencil, it's Cam McGrone. So those 3 guys are probably going to be your primary linebackers. But Austin Ajake being released as well kind of smells like something else could be coming here because what do they got, like 4 linebackers now?
Just 4. Yeah, only 4 linebackers on the roster at this moment, with Carlisle's on injured reserve designated return. The only 4 currently, and we're going to go through the roster in a second.
And Alubi on it.
Yeah, the only 4 currently are Sekou Alubi, Zaire Franklin, Joe Bocci, and Cam McGrone. And if McGrone and Alubi are more special teamers, you got to get another linebacker in here.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, because it's designated to return for Carlisle, but that doesn't mean you can just punt the first 4 weeks away and hope to piecemeal things.
Right.
So that's, I mean, we'll get to that at the final segment, areas we think still need to be addressed. But linebacker is one that definitely shows to be a bit thin.
Yeah, and one thing I want to keep in mind too with waivers, guys, is traditionally roughly 2 to 4% of all players waived get claimed on the waiver wire. It's like 30 players total out of like the hundreds that are cut. So for people thinking like, oh, Coleman Owen won't make it through, I think Coleman Owen will make it to the Colts practice squad. Ulysses Bentley, I think, will make it through to the practice squad. I think the only 2 that are really concerning here, well, 3, I guess, if you count Juju Brents, but I think the Colts are kind of just done with him in general. But the only 2 are Jelani Woods and Isaiah Land. I don't think they're going to make it through waivers along with Brents. I do think Brents is going to get claimed. So those are probably your only 3. I think the rest can make it through to the Colts thing. And honestly, it wouldn't even shock me if any of those 3 weren't claimed because, again, 2 to 4% is such a low number of guys claimed. And I don't know how many teams are really chomping at the bit to take players from an 8-win team that's starting Daniel Jones this year. So, I think I think these guys could make it through, but I think those are the 3 to really watch. I think guys like Coleman Owen, Ulysses Bentley, Darrell and Chami, I think those guys will get through and make it to the Colts practice squad. But coming up, guys, we're going to look at this 53-man roster, what it looks like at the moment, who we think the final 5 guys were who made the team, and what changes could be on the horizon for this team now that their initial 53 is set.
All right, guys, August 26th, that's today. It's FanDuel Futures Day. It's a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just this 24 hours, you still got some time left. FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or you're ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, now is your moment. So take a flyer on the MVP race, crown your champion in August, or parlay your division winners into dark horses. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only today. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back, everydayers. If you haven't already, from the network, we put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better, make your experience listening to our shows better. So if you want to go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started, everyone who completes this survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. And again, the link is in our show notes, so you can catch that there. But we are talking about Colts roster cuts. They made almost 40 moves today to get down to 53 guys. So let's go over this roster real quick and just see what we're looking at. So quarterback, you got Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson, Riley Leonard. Running back, Jonathan Taylor, DJ Giddens, Tyler Goodson. Wide receiver, Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, A.D. Mitchell, Anthony Gould, and Ashton Dulin. Tight end, Tyler Warren, Mo Alley Cox, Drew Ogletree, and Will Mallory. Offensive line, you got a good group here. Bernard Ryman, Quentin Nelson, Tanner Bordolini, Matt Gonzalez, Braden Smith, Jalen Travis, Luke Tenuta, Danny Pinter, and Dalton Tucker. Defensive line, that was a really interesting one. We kind of highlighted going in. You got Laiatu Latu, DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, Kwity Paye, JT Tuimoloau, Neville Gallimore, Tim Smith, and Eric Johnson, Adetomiwa Adeboare, Samson Ebukam, and Tyquan Lewis. At linebacker, we had just mentioned Zaire Franklin, Joe Bacci, Shegu Alubi, and Cam McGrone. Cornerback, Charvarius Ward, Xavier Howard, Kenny Moore II, Mekhi Blackman, Jonathan Edwards, rookie UDFA. The news streak continues, and Jalen Jones. At safety, you got Cam Bynum, Nick Cross, Daniel Scott, which is a very feel-good story, and Rodney Thomas. And then on special teams, Spencer Schrader has won the kicking competition. And then you got punter Rigoberto Sanchez and long snapper Luke Rhodes. So what do we think about this initial look at the 53, Zach?
Yeah, I think my two biggest takeaways as of right now, one being undrafted free agent Jonathan Edwards certainly earned this roster spot. He had a better camp than Sam Womack, a better camp than Juju Brents. And instead of the Colts playing that politics game where you keep the guy who, like Womack started most of your season last year, or a guy like Juju Brents, who was your former second-round pick, the Colts just went with the guy who had the better offseason, the guy they believe in more, a guy who's younger than the other two as well. And they went with Jonathan Edwards. So I think he is one of the final 2 or 3 guys on this roster. So we could be talking about him being waived tomorrow at some point. But as of right now, the rookie out of Tulane making the team at corner after a really strong camp, I think that's a huge takeaway. And the other one is just a move at linebacker is certainly coming. I would guess the corresponding move would be to trim down on defensive line a little bit. Like we could see an Eric Johnson waived at some point tomorrow after they claim a linebacker, because 11 defensive linemen, especially in this system, is a bit much. I think they'll get down to 10 there, and they'll claim a linebacker. But yeah, I think a linebacker move is coming, but I really want to highlight Jonathan Edwards. He earned that roster spot, came out here, had a really good camp, was running with the ones for a lot of the offseason. I liked what he did in the preseason, and I'm glad that they rewarded him with that roster spot, even if it's only for a couple of days here.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a good one. There's a lot of instances around the roster where I was like, they are not letting the youth shine through, especially like Isaiah Land versus Ebby Common Lewis was a good example. But this one, the cornerback room, the changes have just been radical. Like we already knew Charvarius Ward was brought in earlier, but like Corey Ballantyne has already come and gone. Xavier Howard is new-ish. You know, Mekhi Blackman they just traded for. Let's say they sign Mike Hilton after his workout tomorrow. Like this is one group on the roster where they are not messing around. Like it's very telling. If the cornerback room is bad, I don't think they think this defense will be good. So it looks like they're doing absolutely everything in their power to make sure that the cornerback room is as good as possible. Like every injury they've already had, it seems like they've attempted to weather. Now, Justin Wally ain't coming back this year, obviously, but man, they've got guys with versatility like Blackman. I think he's got over double the snaps outside as he does inside when you look at if you throw in preseason snaps as well, because he had the ACL that took away his 2024 season. But that's a guy with inside-out versatility. That was Womack as well. Mike Hilton is a guy where we're kind of wondering if they do sign him, will he what kind of packages will he be in? Will it be more of a safety? I mean, you got a nickel already in Kenny, but when you're in a dime defense, it's not just that guy necessarily. So there's a lot of stuff you can do there. And I look at this and I'm like, they are not farting around with the corner room.
Yeah, the cornerback room, I saw someone on social media saying that they're kind of building their cornerback room like anyone playing Madden would do, just signing all the big names. But honestly, that approach is probably, I'm going to really put that probably in here, but probably better than putting out, an undrafted free agent coming off of an Achilles tear as your starting corner like they did last year.
When did that happen?
And relying on waiver claim guys to start an entire season for you. So compared to what we've gotten out of the past from the Colts at corner, I'll take bringing in the over-the-hill gang than bringing in, the Achilles tear gang on the outside. So, even if Xavier Howard is not all pro Xavier Howard, it's probably going to be good enough to at least have some stability on that back end. It might be rough early in the season as they really get down the finer aspects of communication in the system, but I think long-term it'll be fine for the Colts on that defensive backfield. Looking at some other positions, we had a couple guys that we were debating if they were going to go on IR. Tyler Goodson was a popular choice to throw on injured reserve. The Colts seem optimistic that he could be back as early as week 1 by not putting him on injured reserve right now. Samson Ebukam not on injured reserve with that back injury, so maybe he's good to go by week 1. And then Jalen Jones, the big one. We didn't know if that was going to be one where he ended up on IR. He was called that he had a more severe hamstring injury than Juju Brents. Brents returned to practice last week. Jones, gosh, sorry guys, we're so frustrated from the Colts waiting to release this that we're stuttering here. But Jones was doing individual drills off to the side, but it wasn't like a full practice. So maybe he's good to go after a week or two, and maybe that's why a player like Hilton is coming in to be a reserve corner for the first couple weeks, and then they see from there. So those guys are not on IR as of right now. That could still change in the upcoming days, and they could be scheduled to return still. But as of right now, a guy like Goodson could be playing as early as week 1. And if he's not playing in week 1, the Colts certainly need to make another move at running back.
Yeah, that was dislocated elbow, and it didn't require surgery, but that's still, like, we've seen other guys have that injury, and it's kept them out several weeks. Cam McGrone, I think he had surgery. I can't recall, but he was on IR because of that. They may, running back is kind of a prime area where they may bring in another person. But let's take a quick moment to give a round of applause for Daniel Scott, though, huh? I mean, this is, he kind of got a leg up here because Hunter Wooler got hurt. But for Daniel Scott to, number one, get through the summer healthy, because he'd never even gotten to training camp before. He got to training camp, got through it healthy, made some plays. I mean, he had a pick 6 in the final preseason game, had an interception taken away from him due to a penalty in the game before. He might be the personal protector on the punt team this year. He's going to play a big role regardless as a core special teamer. This is a very good kind of underdog story for the Colts. And it's, it's not a participation trophy thing either, because I think he's going to be a very serviceable player for what they need him to do.
Yeah, and we don't want to say victory laps too early with him, just because, again, if Mike Hilton is signed tomorrow to play safety, it could lead to Daniel Scott being cut and put on the practice squad. But I think the one thing that really helped to him at least get to this point was that excellent punt coverage snap that he had on Saturday from the personal protector spot. I think that one snap alone probably solidified himself, at least on the initial 53-man roster. So Daniel Scott, fantastic final showing out there, at least earned a place on the initial 53-man roster. So that's an achievement within itself, especially for a guy who missed the last 2 years due to serious injury. Look, we give Chris Ballard all the crap for relying so much on these guys coming off major injuries. Daniel Scott made the team, though, so clearly it's working here. But no, all jokes aside, coming up, guys, we're going to talk about a couple positions that the Colts could address. We've already hinted at a few throughout this, but we're going to talk about really what we could see the Colts do in the coming days with how the roster stands at this current moment.
This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. The NFL season is right around the corner and you can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season is here. Everyone's researching, drafting, and building their championship squads. If you haven't joined a league yet, now is the time because it's all happening on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, Zach and I are both playing fantasy football on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too. Whether you're a first-timer or you're a vet creating what seems like your millionth league, Yahoo Fantasy is loaded with fun ways to compete and brand new features that make the game even better. With season kickoff on September 4th, now is the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football, which offers so many fun ways to compete. If you want more ways to play, then you could try the brand new Fantasy Guillotine League mode, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated weekly until there is just one team left standing. If you want to play instantly with your friends, you could try the new Draft with Friends mode. Maybe you prefer the classics and get your crew together and go head-to-head in a private league. If you got no crew at all, you still can play as well. Just join a public league. It's the easiest way to play. The NFL season kicks off September 4th, so don't wait. Start your league now. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. That's yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. Welcome back, everydayers. We are talking Colts roster cuts, Colts 53-man roster, and that leads us now to some of the most vulnerable areas we think the Colts should be looking to kind of peck around the waiver wire and free agency. So again, players with less than 4 years of accrued service in the NFL are subject to waivers. Once they're waived after 24 hours, all the teams have an opportunity to put in a waiver claim. The teams that are highest in the waiver order get priority. The Colts are 14th because through the first 3 weeks of the regular season, it sticks to the draft order. So the Colts have 13 teams ahead of them on the waiver wire, but players who were released, who have 4+ years of service, they can just sign with whoever, whenever. So free agents can start signing like literally now. So with that said, Zach, when you look at this roster, what positions do you think are most ripe to be addressed through free agency and the waiver wire?
I mean, we've only said it like 3 times already in this show, but linebacker for sure, a move is going to come there, in my opinion. I guess there is some way they could operate where a Jockey is called up the first couple weeks, and that's your 5th linebacker, but he's on the practice squad. But I think they're going to make a move at linebacker. Clearly, at least in my opinion, from how you've covered the training camp and how I saw my one day out there against the Ravens, I'm not sure how much they love this linebacker room at the moment. Like, we've seen a Jockey and we've seen Alubi and McGrone rotate at the top, but I don't think they were really fantastic out there rotating with the starters. I think they view McGrone and Alubi more as special teamers. So I think they want to get another linebacker in here that they think can actually play some games, at least until Jalen Carlisle is back from injury. So I think a linebacker move's coming. You know, guys like Chad Muma was released by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Rookie Pooh Paul from Ole Miss was released by the Los Angeles Rams. That is another player that a lot of people really liked in this draft class. I wasn't super high on him, but as a waiver claim,
he's got T-Rex arms.
Yeah, T-Rex arms, but you know, with Lou, it's maybe not as big a deal there. And a couple other players across the league you could see at linebacker. And then a couple others, I think a safety move is probably coming, whether that's Mike Hilton or someone else. And unfortunately, our boy Daniel Scott might be at the butt end of that when that happens, or if that happens, just because I think Scott they like a lot as a special teamer, and I think they can get him to the practice squad to be a special teamer for the team and come up and play a first couple weeks. But do they have a safety that they can rely on behind those top two guys? Like, do they really trust Rodney Thomas when he had a pretty up and down offseason? And I'm not sure they'll actually cut Rodney Thomas. I know they've been cutting guys that have been here this offseason, but I had to see that to believe it, I guess, when it comes to Thomas. So I think safety could potentially have a move. I think linebacker for sure is going to get a move. And who knows, maybe they're going to keep adding corners. They'll keep throwing corners at this problem until it's solved, which, again, compared to last year where Sam Womack was a waiver wire claim that had to start the entire season, I guess I can't complain too much.
So let me pull back to last draft season, 2024. Let me throw a name at you for linebacker. Edifwan Ulafosio. The Bills let him go. That was one of our guys last year. Was a perfect Ballard fit. Don't know how much he necessarily fits with Lou, but that's a guy who clicks and closes very well, very good in pass coverage as well. If they want to make a move there, he has got my support. Running back's interesting because, again, how long is Tyler Goodson out? Damian Martinez waived by the Seahawks. That was a guy we targeted all this draft year. Offensive line, I think they could really use an offensive tackle because right now you have a rookie Jalen Travis and Luke Tenuta. That's your backup tackles because Blake Freeland fractured his ankle, is out for the year. So I think that seems imminent. Like they're probably going to bring in another offensive tackle, I would think. They've got what I would perceive to be an extra nose tackle, an extra one tech with Eric Johnson and Tim Smith. For my money, I would probably give the edge to Tim Smith. He's just the younger guy, and it's close enough. Like, what's Eric Johnson going to do for you that Tim Smith can't? Like, just go with the young guy there. Linebacker, obviously. Corner, when you think it's done, it never is. So, like you said, like there could be another move coming at some point. But yeah, that's a few areas I would really target.
Yeah, I think the big ones that are probably going to happen, like I think their first moves tomorrow, or I think it processes tomorrow, will be grabbing a linebacker and potentially grabbing an offensive tackle, and then we'll see Tenuta and one of the defensive linemen waived in a corresponding move, get those guys to the practice squad, and I think that's going to be probably what they're going to try to go in with the start of the season. We'll see if Mike Hilton is signed to the active roster or to the practice squad, because I'm assuming that's going to get done. Like, again, we saw Xavier Howard come in here and work out for the team and get signed. I'd be shocked if Hilton's also not signing on. You're going to get all the boys back together with Louis Anarumo. But we'll just see if that's a practice squad or a regular roster there. But I think those are going to be their two big moves tomorrow. We could see some more action on the veteran market just because, again, the Colts have kind of shown that they're going for veterans at this point. So it wouldn't shock me if they went out there and got a veteran running back to be their third guy, at least until Goodson's back. But I think for the most part, we're going to see these guys roll into the first week. I know you can obviously say that, but I don't think we're going to see too much churning at the bottom of the roster. I think most, like 51 of these guys are probably safe, and it'll just be a defensive tackle, and maybe Tenuta will be in jeopardy come tomorrow with waiver wire claims.
Yeah, and then of course in the coming days, if today is any indicator with how long we waited, the Colts will drag out their practice squad selection quite a bit. So yeah, as players across the league clear waivers and become free agents, the Colts will start packing in that 16-man practice squad. So Zach, let me just put you on the spot real quick. We obviously have our guys who we knew they weren't going to make the roster, but they had great summers. So give me like 5 guys you think are pretty much shoe-ins for the practice squad.
Yeah, I mean, Laquan Treadwell, I think, is the easiest one to throw on there just because he's been there the last 2 years and the Colts very much like him. He's their 7th wide receiver. Sticking at the receiver position, though, I think Coleman Owen is a very, very good chance to be back on the practice squad. Ulysses Bentley, they really like, I think, is going to be back on the practice squad. Let's see. Austin Ajake, I think, is going to certainly be back on the practice squad. And then we'll see one of these corners, either Alex Johnson or Chris Lamons, I think, will be the other safe pick to put. Trey Washington's another one too. If I want to throw a 6-1, I think those are the guys who you can really look to be back on the practice squad. we might see like another veteran tight end addition because they like to just cycle veteran tight ends on the practice squad. We'll see what happens with Jason Bean, if Jason Bean's going to be the practice squad quarterback this year or if they go out and try to get somebody else. But yeah, those are my handful of guys that I'm either looking at or I think are probably going to be back on the practice squad.
Yeah, I would add Marcellus Johnson to that, the offensive tackle. Curious about Josh Sills, or if that's just one where they're just parting ways. That's a guy with light tackle, but definite guard flexibility. Darrell Nchame is a layup for me. He had an awesome summer. Solomon DeShields, he's a guy who stuck out to me quite a bit throughout training camp, not as much during the preseason. You mentioned Trey Washington. I would throw Ladarius Tennyson in there as well. He has nickel and safety versatility. He was actually on the depth chart at nickel. I saw him do that a bit in practice, but obviously his home is at safety normally. So that's a guy who, the more you can do, they're going to want to develop you a little further. But between Washington and Tennyson, I think they definitely really, really like Washington.
Yeah, no, for sure. But we'll see, guys. A lot of moves coming in the next couple of days. We'll talk about all those moves coming up again tomorrow and just everything going on with this roster. And I'm sure I'll also dive into this cornerback room a little bit more in depth as well, because if they sign Mike Hilton, having Hilton, Blackman, and Kenny all on the same roster feels very abundant at slot corner. So we'll talk about what they could do with that position room as well. We want to thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first post-cut listen of the day. NFL Fantasy Draft season is here, so your second listen, go find Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast with hosts Vinny Iyer and Michelle Majuk. Listen every day to prep for your fantasy draft and become the most informed manager so you can take home your league's trophy this season. Find Locked On Fantasy Football on YouTube or list your podcast. If you guys want to become a Locked On Colts insider and chat with us directly and get that insider scoop, follow the link in our show notes. And if you don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at ZachHicks2, all on socials. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube or list your podcast. We love your guys' ratings, reviews, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow afternoon.